Hello, welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. The date is Sunday, October 30, 2022. This is the evening before Halloween, the All Hallows Eve, where goblins and witches and skeletons and zombies and pirates. Is pirate even still a thing? Or maybe nowadays people just do space pirates. I don't know. I feel a little bit out of touch with what's popular with kids nowadays. But from what I know about the Fortnite video game, which is a really big hit with children all over the world, I still think it's kind of weird that children allowed to play a game where a bunch of weirdly dressed characters run around an island, bashing each other's head in with pickaxes and shooting each other, and try to grab each other's loot and basically commit robbery and mayhem and murder. I still can't understand why that is okay for children to play. But hey, I am all for no censorship and freedom for whatever you want to play. So whatever. If kids are into that and your parents think that somehow it's okay, then I guess it's okay. That's not what we're going to be talking about today. That's neither here or there. As I was saying, with the Fortnite video game being such a big hit with children, maybe we will see some very creative costumes. Maybe there'll be kids that dressed up like, ooh, I don't know, Tomato Head, uh, Beef Boss, and guy, Hamburger Guy. How about Bratwurst? Kids that dressed up to look like hot dog. That would be kind of cool. All those, cool, funky Fortnite video game characters. But enough about that. Today, I want to talk about the art of listening to advice. In a song by Simon and Garfunkel called The Sound of Silence, there's a line of lyrics that I particularly like. It said, people hearing without listening, and people talking without speaking. And honestly, as we look around more and more nowadays, we see a lot of that going on. The pace of life is so fast, whether on the interweb or in real life, that a lot of people don't really stop and actually listen. So a lot of time when you give someone advice, when someone is receiving advice, it's almost like you're wasting your time. It's like you're not even getting through. You're on two completely different wavelengths. You're on two different radio stations, two different planets that you somehow are speaking the same language. At least you think you're speaking the same language, but the other person is just, yeah, okay, very good, cool, awesome. Wow, I really like that advice. And then nothing get done afterward. It didn't even register in their head. Now, it is always good to be able to listen to advice from other people, but it is also very important to know how to make the most out of the advice you are given. Because if you are a person who simply take everything people say at face value, if you take all the advice people give you and just run with it, then you probably won't get very far either. Because there's always going to be someone else around the next corner that's going to give you the advice that almost completely opposite to what you are following. You need to be able to objectively come to your own conclusion in the end. Now, the action of actually willing to listen to advice. The fact that you will give someone's time so they can speak their piece, that's half of the battle right there. That's half of the victory right there. By doing so, you're showing that you're keeping the channel of communication at least open. Yeah, you're stopping long enough to hear what the other person have to say. Now, I say that this is only half the battle because, like I said earlier, a lot of people do that. A lot of people will say, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" And when you're giving the advice, they're yeah, okay, cool. I'll try that. I'll definitely try that. And you just somehow get the feeling that it didn't even get through to them. And so, yeah, they are willing to keep that communication open. They're willing to hear what you have to say, but it's not getting through, which means they're wasting their time. You're wasting your time. So being willing to stop and listen is only half of it. You need the other half to be able to benefit fully from receiving advice from people. The other half of the art of receiving good advice and benefiting from advice is split into three parts. Number one, you must have the open mind to actually listen. This is different from me saying to you, "Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you tell me how to do this?" Or I'm not sure if I'm doing this the right way. What do you think? And you give me advice, and then I just go ahead and do it my own way anyway. Okay? When we receive advice, whether wanted or unwanted, mostly this happen to unwanted advice. But a lot of time, this will happen to people who actually ask for the advice themselves. Is in our own mind, we already came to the conclusion of what we were going to do. Okay, so in other words, you're not looking for advice. You're looking for confirmation. You're looking for affirmation. You're looking for someone to agree with you. So this is not looking for advice. This is not you actually genuinely looking for advice. This is you saying, I already got my mind made up, so now I just need you to agree with me so I can feel good about myself. If that's the case, then say so, okay? Because if you are saying, I need some advice, then it's not going to always go in the direction that you think it will, and then you're going to tune it out because in your head this is contrary to what you already decided on. To be able to have that open mind to receive the advice, to actually listening to the person, we need to learn how to be humble. We need to come to the realization and actually admit to ourselves that maybe we don't know shit. And maybe this person actually does know something more than we do. Maybe there are things that we have not considered. Maybe we are not being very careful in making our decision. Maybe we are, could it be? Maybe we are wrong. Maybe we're actually wrong. Maybe the other person is right. Okay? So, a lot of the time, this is where we see religious people from various religion. This is where things get really, really wrong. Okay, this is why we have so many wars in religion, because religious people are unwilling to even consider maybe the other guy is right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the way I've been taught is wrong. Maybe the way my grandfather been taught was wrong. Maybe I've been following the wrong path all along. If you're religious, especially very religious, this is unthinkable. Your faith is not supposed to be questioned. So which means you're not open for possibility that you may be wrong. Okay, when you're looking for advice, you need to step back and admit to yourself that maybe you are wrong. Maybe that's why you need the advice the other person is giving you. Let me give you a true personal account. When I first started running Night Strike Self Defense back in the 2013, 2014, I taught my blind students my workshop. I ran my workshop exactly the same way that I conducted the Krav Maga classes. I ran my classes for my blind student exactly the same way as how we were trained in Commando Krav Maga. Hard, hard, hard. Okay? Before we even learn any technique, we are getting down, doing 50 push-ups. We're doing burpees. We're running around, getting our heart rate up. We're doing sit-ups. And we're doing partner drills, carrying our partner on our back. We're doing squats and jumping jack and stuff like that. And you know what happened? Well, I guess you guys can probably guess what happened. A lot of time, I either didn't have any students for Night Strike Self-Defense for the blind, or I would run a workshop, and then by half an hour in, I was in the beginning of the workshop, I would start with 40 people, and by half an hour in, I maybe had two people left if I was lucky. So many people, so many people, including my head disciple Clement, uh, tried to explain to me that you can't do this because people that they're not used to this kind of intensity. You can't train them like this. You're going to lose students. You're never going to be able to get Night Strike self-defense off the ground. But you know what? I knew what I was doing. I trained people since year 2000. I trained police officers. I trained military members. I trained airport security people. I trained bouncers. I knew what I was doing. So yes, when people gave me this advice that you need to tone this down, you need to tone this down, it's too much. I just like, oh, okay, yeah, I hear you, I hear you. In my head, I was like, you guys, who's the last person you trained? How long have you been training people? Do I know more? Do you know more? Yeah, that's what was going on in my head. Right? On my face, I was all smiling and yeah, okay, I understand. Okay, we'll see what happens. You know, and sometimes I will say, well, I only want to train the best people who really want to work. If you don't want to work, I don't want to train you. Sometimes I'll give that kind of attitude. It took me 4 years before I realized I was being stubborn and I wasn't keeping an open mind. Because what people were saying to me had nothing to do with they think me not knowing how to train people. That's not what they were saying. Even though that's what I thought I was hearing. You don't know what you're doing. You need to tone this down. That's not what they were saying. What people were saying is, yes, you are great at training security guards. You're great at training police officers, but these are blind, disabled people who probably never even worked out a day in their life. You need to start low. You need to start slow. You can't do this commando style training right off the bat. Took me years to learn to tone this down, to actually open my ear, open my mind to the possibility maybe I didn't know jack shit. Maybe I needed to listen to people, what people were actually telling me. And I started to relax more and more. And now we still, our group is still not very big with a nice strike self defense for the blind, but we at least have people that are willing to come and learn self-defense. So this is just one of my personal accounts of an example for you that why it is important when you are hearing what other people are saying to you. You need to let your ego, let your pride take a back seat, let your personal preferences take a back seat, and actually hear what they're saying and consider what they're saying to you. Because otherwise, all I heard in my head was, yo, you are doing this wrong. You can't do it. Blind people cannot do this. Blind people cannot work hard. And I'm in my head, I'm like, that's BS. That's crap. Because I'm blind. I'm blind and partially deaf. I am doing these things just. I'm not asking them to do anything that I don't do. Okay, so that this whole blind people cannot work hard is crap. But that's not what people were saying. What people were saying to me is, you can't work them this hard right off the bat. Too much, too quick, too soon. So, number one important factor in making good use of advice that is given to you is keep an open mind when you are listening. Hear and listen and stop trying to get your own feeling involved in the matter. Number two, after actually having the open mind to listen and now you heard the advice, now it's very important to have the intelligence to figure out what is the motive of the person giving you this piece of advice. This can go from very simple to very complicated. Now we're going to keep this relatively short because this is really not that difficult to understand. When people give you a piece of advice, you need to ask yourself, why are they telling me this? Is it for their own good? Is it for my good? Like, okay, if a let's start with a simple one. If a person whose career, whose job is to sell insurance, try to sit down with you and tell you all the virtues of having life insurance, then this is very obvious. Okay, this is like very direct, simple. They are telling you it's good to have life insurance because they want to sell you life insurance. When doctors tell you you need to be on medication, when vets tell you your pet need something, when dentists keep telling you you need more cleaning, stuff like that, there's a big chance that you do need these things, but there's also a big chance that they just want more business. They want they want to make more money. So it's very simple. There's nothing complicated about this. Where this gets complicated is sometimes the motive is not so cut and dry. For example, I may tell you that you uh, need self-defense training, and yes, me being a self-defense instructor, that sort of looked like I am trying to drum up some business for myself. And that may be true. But at the same time, just because I have an ulterior motive doesn't mean that this advice is bad. Okay? Maybe you do benefit from self-defense training. If I tell you that you should get more fit and more healthy, to you, this might sound like because me being a trainer, that's what I'm saying to try to get you to pay money. But on the other hand, honestly, it's going to be good for you in the end. So sometimes we are very quick to discount someone's advice when we think there is an ulterior motive, and when there is an ulterior motive, but to do so would be folly because let's say, okay, your doctor tell you you need this medication, and you immediately think, well, because he's a doctor, and so he's going to say that so he can get money. So you don't take the medication, but maybe you actually did need that medication, right? Don't discount the advice just because you figured out the other person has something to gain by it. Sometimes just because they have something to gain doesn't mean it's bad for you. Sometimes it's for mutual benefit. You get something out of it, they get something out of it. A lot of time it is like that. In a human society, we need each other to survive. I need you to take I need you to take martial art lesson so I can eat, I can pay rent, and you need me to teach you how to protect yourself so you can be fit, be safe, be strong. It's a mutual benefit. I need you to watch more Johnny Tiger videos uh, because that's what I need. I need viewership. But at the same time, just because that is my ulterior motive doesn't mean that watching Johnny Tiger video won't benefit you in some way. At least I hope it benefits you guys in some ways. um, so it's important to figure out what is the motive behind this advice, but at the same time, don't don't automatically discount the advice just because there is a motive behind it. And this leads to the third important factor in uh, benefiting from good advice. Factor number three. Number one is to have the open mind to actually listen. Number two is to have the intelligence to figure out the motive. Number three is to have the wisdom to figure out how does this apply to you. A lot of time we take other people's wisdom and try to apply it to ourselves. We read self-help book. We read book like 10 steps on how to become a successful business person. And then we end up saying, this doesn't work. This is crap. This doesn't work. You may uh, listen to a Johnny Tiger video, audio, Soul Search Sunday that tell you 3 steps to keep your marriage smooth, and then you come back later and say these don't work whatsoever. Uh, a lot of time, what happened here is we need to remember everybody has a different circumstance. I'm blind, you're not blind. I'm in long-term, long-distance relationship. You may be in a long-term, common law relationship. You may be married. You may not have a relationship at all. I have I have a lifestyle where I perform art and music and teach martial arts and do counseling. You may be the kind of guy who work 8 to 5 every day. So our experiences, our circumstances, our upbringings are all different. You can have twins in a family, like you can have two people born exactly the same from the same family, and they are going to turn out a little bit different. They are going to tell you they have different experiences, right? So most people in this world going to be different in some way, which means the advice that's going to work for me it might not work for you. The tricks that work for me might not work for you. And this is even more true in martial arts and self-defense. I talked about this a lot. I dislike just teaching techniques and cookie cutter style of teaching. We teach 20 people, everybody learn the same thing, everyone proceed at the same pace because no one ever proceed at the same pace. Usually in the class, there's going to be someone who's super badass and someone who just can't even throw a proper roundhouse kick even after 5 years. Even though they come to the same class every day, they get the same instruction. People are going to be different. So uh, keep this in mind when you get a piece of advice and understand that even when the advice is good, sometimes it might not apply to you whatsoever. Let me give you another true personal experience with my ex-girlfriend. This happened 10 years ago, and I still remember to this day that the little argument we had at the time. Um, my girlfriend or my ex-girlfriend, sorry, my ex-girlfriend was looking for uh, a new computer. Her computer just quit and died, I don't want to even go into why did I quit on her and die, because that was a lot of other arguments right there. Um, when this didn't have to happen. But anyway, it happened. Her computer died, and she was looking to buy a new computer, and she asked me a lot on what computer she should get, and which model, what sound card, what video card, what graphic card, what hard drive, and keyboard, and speakers, and all that stuff. And I was happy to be of assistance. Um, and so after talking to her for hours and hours about various options, looking at Amazon, looking at different computer stores, uh, through different options, uh, the next day she called me and she said, "Oh, uh, I'm going to buy a laptop instead." I was like, "Uh, why?" Because to me, this came out of nowhere. We've been talking about she buying a desktop for almost a week, and then suddenly she's like, "I'm going to buy a laptop, and not just any laptop. I'm going to buy a $3,000 laptop." I was like, "Why?" Um, Immediately she was defensive. "What's wrong with me getting a laptop?" I said, "Well, nothing's wrong with you getting a laptop, but why are you suddenly wanting to get a laptop?" And she said, "Well, because I was talking to my friend Jim, and Jim told me that getting a desktop is stupid, and I should get a laptop because getting a laptop, I can take it with me wherever I want to go, and I can work wherever. I don't have to work at the desk." I was like, "Okay, let me say this. Jim's advice is very good. However, aren't you forgetting two things? One, you don't work. You're independently wealthy. You have all the money you can need in the world. You don't work. Number two, you never go anywhere. You, the We've been together for like 10 plus years. I've only known you to travel or actually go places a handful of times. The rest of the time you're at home. So yes, this laptop would be a great idea for someone like Jim, who works and travel from province to province every freaking week. Uh, but for you, if you are going to store a lot of music, if you are going to store a lot of files, if you are going to watch a lot of movies, then you probably should go with a desktop. But at this point, I experienced exactly what I was talking about in the beginning of the video. I could sense that she wasn't even listening to me anymore because I said, "You are not working." So to her, it sounded like I was criticizing her. So she totally stopped listening to me after that. So in the end, I said, "Okay, F this. Get a laptop. Get two laptops. Get 10 laptops. I don't care. Not my money. Whatever." So this is just to illustrate that there are times like this where Jim, the helpful friend, gave a piece of advice that would be very useful for someone in the same circumstance as he was, but for someone like my ex-girlfriend who wasn't working, who didn't go out that much, was a totally faulty piece of advice, which she took in the end, to my very strong protest, but that's all in the past now. Um, so just to recap, when we actually give someone the time so they can give us a piece of advice, when someone give us the time so they can give us a piece of advice, for us to truly benefit from this experience, first have the open mind to listen and hear what they are saying to you. Two, have the intelligence to figure out their motive. Why are they telling me this? And number three, have the wisdom to figure out Does this actually apply to me and my lifestyle or circumstance? When you keep those three things in mind when listening, receiving advice, it's like actually tasting your food rather than just swallowing it. You will get way more out of the advice that's given to you. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. Have a safe Halloween, and hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow for some Music Monday. For now, have a good night.